Hooray! I've got a great news for you all today. Do you have AMC 1 and 2 and have been struggling to get a job in Australia? Do you have PLAB 1 and 2 and have been struggling to get a job in the UK? You can come and work in New Zealand through the exam registration pathway. You don't need to have any prior experience. All you need is just the exams, just as you do now, and you could come and work here. It's a bit of a complex process, but I'm going to guide you through the whole series of it using a webinar. So it's going to be a bit of a long video, but I assure you it's going to be worth your time. I'm going to preempt all your questions and I'll answer them as I do this video because I've been through this process myself. So I'm going to be answering all the questions along as I go along. All right, so stick to the very end and I promise it's gonna be worth your time. All right, let's dive in.
Here we are. So have you got your PLAB 1 and 2? Have you got your AMC multiple MCQ basically and your clinical examination? Have you got your MZRS clinical exam? You can get registered in New Zealand through the examination registration pathway. For this to happen, these are the prerequisites. You need to have an acceptable primary medical qualification, have these exams we've mentioned, and meet the fitness. This includes your English exam. Obviously, you need a job as well. So for you to apply for registration, you need to meet the prerequisites, which we mentioned here, and have a job offer as a PGY1. This is very, very important. Very, very important. So if we look at what the checklist seems like, it used to be just PLAB 1 and 2 and NZRX. Initially started with just NZRX. Now, last year they added PLAB 1 and 2. This year they've added AMC. So this basically your eligibility would be one of these three. Have you got the clinical exam NZRX? Or have you got your PLAB 1 and 2? Or have you got your AMC 1 and 2, obviously? Once any of this is clicked yes, you could come down here. Just like in my previous videos, this whole process could be a bit complex, so the earlier you start, the better. You will need to Epic verify. You need to Epic verify your results, and obviously part of the document you Epic verify would be your exam results. So alongside your primary degree, you also verify the exam. So if you're using PLAB, you need to verify your PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. If you're using AMC, you need to Epic verify your AMC 1 and MC2 individually. You need to Epic verify them individually, not as a combined, just so you know. So the whole process is summarized in you need the exams, you need the job, and then you apply for registration and you start working. So I'm going to be playing a webinar. With this webinar, I'm going to explain the process in details, and we're going to be posting along the way and giving you more in details and more information. This webinar also covers for those that have worked in Australia and those that have worked in UK that want to come here through the competent authority pathway. This webinar also covers that. So just sit tight and we'll go through the process together.
Making a difference. It's what you do. But what about what you need? Like space.
Not many of us here, eh?
Like more to do on your days off.
Less.
Like a team you can count on. Or a warm welcome.
Yeah, we've got that covered.
If you work in healthcare, come on over to Aotearoa, New Zealand and make a difference somewhere different.
Kia ora, and nau mai everyone. Hello and welcome. We're happy you're here with us today. We hope we can provide you with some helpful guidance on how to start a new adventure in Aotearoa, New Zealand, no matter how far along you are on that immigration journey. The immigration journey can be a little different for everybody. This webinar is mainly provided for resident medical officers qualified in the UK, Ireland, USA, Canada, Singapore, or Australia. So for anyone outside of those 6 countries, you may need to take some extra steps to gain your registration and get your work visa. But this session gives you a pretty good overview of what you need to know.
So the extra steps you would need, I'm going to be adding it up to this webinar. At any stage you need that extra step, that extra information, I'm going to pause and give you those details, all right?
The 4 main steps of your immigration journey start with gaining registration in step 1 so that you have the best possible chance of finding a job in step 2. Step 3 is then applying for a work visa with Immigration New Zealand after you've received a job offer, with the final step being taking the plunge and making a move to Aotearoa, New Zealand. We have a few different speakers today who can take you through all 4 of those steps. First up, Rachel and Hudden from the Medical Council of New Zealand will take you through the registration process. Mire, an RMO recruitment specialist, will take you through the annual recruitment cycle, closely followed by Ravoy from Kiwi Hub Jobs, who will introduce our candidate kaitiaki team and their involvement in the recruitment process. Hido and Paul from Immigration New Zealand will then take you through applying for New Zealand's accredited employer work visa once you've received a job offer. We'll then hand you over to Zoe, who will talk about Te Whatu Ora's Health Immigration Service and how they can help you throughout all 4 steps of this journey. We'll finish with a quick fire Q&A from Elizabeth, who originally moved here from Germany and has gone through the entire 4-step process herself. So I'm going to stop talking and hand you over to our first speakers from the Medical Council of New Zealand, who will take you through the registration process. Over to you, Rachel and Helen.
Thanks, Jake. Kia ora koutou. My name's Rachel. I am Team Leader for Vocational Registration at Council, and I have Haran Gill, my colleague with us, who's a Team Leader for General Registration at Council. We have the next slide, please. Thanks. So, just as an overview, we're going to cover some key requirements for registration. Haran will talk about the pathways for RMOs applying for registration in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and then we'll talk about some of the prerequisites to applying for registration in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Could I have the next slide, please? So there are 3 key requirements that all applicants must satisfy for registration. So fitness for registration, holding a relevant prescribed qualification, and competence to practice in the scope they've applied for. So for the first requirement, that is an applicant must be fit for registration. Fitness for registration covers 4 key areas. These are competence, conduct, health, and English language communication. If an applicant has made a disclosure regarding a competence, conduct, or health matter, then we will require to assess this and see whether the disclosure reflects adversely on their fitness to practice or not. In terms of English language communication, we must be satisfied that an applicant can communicate effectively and comprehend English sufficiently to protect the public health and safety. We have an English language policy, and an applicant must meet one of the options in that policy. Our registration application forms include a range of fitness for registration questions. The responses to these questions, as well as the information provided by the referees and from other regulatory authorities, help us to determine if a doctor is fit to register and practice in New Zealand. Could we just go back to the other slide just briefly, please? Thanks. The second key requirement is around holding the relevant prescribed qualifications. So in some cases, the prescribed qualification will be an identified medical qualification. In other cases, it may comprise of a combination of a medical degree, additional training, and approved experience, or a pass in an examination. And Haran will shortly explain what the prescribed qualifications are for each of the registration pathways. So the final key requirement for registration is that an applicant must be competent to practice within the scope of practice for which they have applied. To assess an applicant's competence to practice, we ask a range of questions regarding professional competence on the application forms. We also ask for a copy of a CV, and this enables us to assess the work history and experience, and we seek at least 3 references. All of this information assists us in assessing an applicant's competence to practice in the scope in which they have applied for. I'm going to hand this to Haran, who will go through the pathways.
Thank you, Rachel. Kia ora koutou. I'm Haran Gill, Team Leader of the General Registration Team here at Council. So I'm going to talk about the Provisional General Registration pathways and the prescribed qualification for each pathway. Next slide, please. So starting off with the first Provisional General pathway, which is also one of Council's most commonly used pathway for international medical graduates, that is the UK or Irish graduates, otherwise known as the Competent Authority pathway. This pathway is for doctors who have completed their medical degree from a medical school in the UK or Ireland and completed 1 year of general medical experience in the UK or Ireland, basically their internship. Occasionally, some of these doctors will also decide to complete their internship outside of the UK or Ireland, and if they've done so, they will first need to apply for their internship to be assessed in line with Council's policy on the recognition of overseas internship. If their internship is assessed as an internship that is comparable to an internship undertaken in New Zealand, they can then apply down the Competent Authority pathway. Once they gain Provisional General Registration in New Zealand, they will be required to work under supervision for a period of 6 months. Moving on to the next slide, please. Next pathway is the Comparable Health System pathway. This is an experience-based pathway for doctors who have worked in any one of the 24 countries that we have deemed to have health systems that is comparable to ours. This pathway does not require a doctor to sit any form of entrance exam or complete any form of assessment to gain registration in New Zealand. Next slide, please. As this is an experience-based pathway, we do apply a strict criteria when determining their eligibility for registration. To be eligible for registration via the Comparable Health System pathway, a doctor must have worked in a comparable health system for at least 33 of the 48 months immediately prior to application for at least 20 hours per week. Just to emphasize, this is a minimum of 20 hours per week, not an average of 20 hours. And they must obtain a job offer in New Zealand in the same or similar area of medicine and at the same or similar level of responsibility as that 33 months of experience. And they must hold a current full general registration in one of the comparable health systems that they have worked in the preceding 48 months. Just go back to that slide, please. Once they gain Provisional General Registration in New Zealand, they will have to work under supervision for 12 months before progressing onto a general scope of practice. Next slide, please. The next provisional general pathway is the Australian General Registrants Pathway. This pathway is for international medical graduates in Australia who have completed specific written and clinical exams administered by the Australian Medical Council. They must have passed the AMC MCQ examination and either have passed the AMC clinical or an AMC approved work-based assessment. Followed by they must complete 12 months of satisfactory practice in Australia and gain full general registration in Australia with APRA. Once they gain provisional general registration in New Zealand, they must work under supervision for 12 months before progressing onto a general scope of practice. Okay, next slide, please. Similar to the Australian General Registrants Pathway, this is the UK General Registrants Pathway. So this is for IMGs in the UK who have completed the written and clinical exam administered by the General Medical Council in the UK. So the prescribed qualification for this pathway is that within the last 5 years, immediately prior to application, they must have passed both parts of the PLAB exam, the Part 1 and Part 2, and have 12 months of work experience in the UK. That can be that they have completed Foundation Year 1, Foundation Year 2 standalone, or 12 months of supervised practice in an approved practice setting in the UK, and they must hold full general registration in the UK with the GMC. To gain provisional general registration in New Zealand, these doctors must obtain a house officer level position in a hospital setting and work under supervision for 12 months before progressing onto a general scope. Next slide, please. Finally, it's the examinations pathway. This pathway is for doctors who have not met the eligibility criteria of any one of the other registration pathways that I've just talked about. There are two options that sit under the examinations pathway. Option 1 is for doctors to complete our New Zealand registration examination or NZREX clinical. Prior to sitting the NZREX exam, they must have completed one of the listed prerequisites. Once they've passed NZREX clinical, they must obtain a PGY1 position in accredited clinical attachments within 5 years and fulfill the same requirements as a New Zealand intern beginning work as a PGY1 in accredited clinical attachments and complete our 2-year pre-vocational training program. Next slide, please. The second option that sits under the examinations pathway for doctors who have completed Part 1 and Part 2 of the PLAB test administered by the GMC. These doctors will have the ability to apply for provisional general registration as soon as they have successfully obtained a PGY1 position in accredited clinical attachments. Similarly, they will need to fulfill the same requirements as a New Zealand intern starting work as a PGY1 in accredited clinical attachments.
So this also applies. There's a second option. The third option, which was added this year, just this month, is the AMC 1 and 2, as I showed you guys at the beginning. So the same principle applies. You need to get a PGY1 job in an accredited clinical attachment, and then you do that for PGY1, PGY2, and then you get your full general registration without restriction. So after PGY1, you get general registration, but you still have to work for another 12 months for the restriction to be removed. All right.
And back to my colleague Rachel that will talk about the registration prerequisite.
Thanks, Haran. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so some of the prerequisites for applying for registration in Aotearoa, New Zealand. All applicants must have an acceptable primary medical qualification. So this qualification must be from a medical school that is listed on the World Directory of Medical Schools, or WODMS. On the entries on the WODMS website, there is a sponsor note for each of these medical schools. And so if your primary medical qualification has been awarded from a medical school outside of the United States or Canada, you must have completed that medical qualification within the dates listed on the sponsor note. Next slide, please. So your qualifications and some of your other documentation will need to be primary source verified. So Council uses ECFMG's EPIC service to do this. So this is to confirm the authenticity of a doctor's qualifications. What documents need to be verified does vary depending on the pathway which you are applying down. So on our website, there is a page that talks about the primary source verification, and it also lists each pathway and the required documents to be verified on there.
So for PLAB, you need to verify PLAB 1 and then PLAB 2, as well as your primary degree. For AMC, you need to verify AMC MCQ and AMC Clinical alongside your primary degree, all right?
Next slide, please. Okay, and as I previously mentioned, English language. So this is a prerequisite. You must meet one of Council's multiple options under our English language policy to be able to apply. You only need to meet one of the options, but you do need to meet it precisely.
So this is the English requirements. For IELTS, you need to have 7 in each of them, minimum of 7 in each of them. For OET, you need to have minimum of 350 in each of the 4 components. and just as with IELTS, they need to be within 2 years. Within 2 years. So in my own case, it was just 2 weeks. So when I got the job, my IELTS was still valid, but the whole process, delays and all whatnot, IELTS got expired 2 weeks. I had to write another IELTS within a week to get the process going. So just be mindful. If your IELTS is about to expire, you need to just write another one, or if you plan on coming here.
Next slide, please. And I think Haran's going to take this one.
Thanks, Rachel. Finally, the reference requirements. All applications for registration must be accompanied with at least 3 references. There are several key requirements that the referees must meet, such as they must be senior medical colleagues who are familiar with the applicant's current professional practice. They must have worked with the applicant for at least 6 months in the last 3 years, or 3 months for house officers that are rotating quarterly, and a reference must be provided from the applicant's most recent or current place of employment. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentation. Back to you, Jake.
Thank you, Rachel and Helen. I will hand you over to Mirai, who will discuss the annual recruitment cycle, and Ravoy, who will introduce our candidate Kaitiaki team and discuss their involvement in the recruitment process. Over to you, Mirai.
Thank you, Jake. Kia ora. My name is Mirai Vronstot. I'm the Recruitment Allocation Manager, and I'm going to talk to you about the annual recruitment cycle. If we wouldn't mind going to the first slide, please. So the annual recruitment cycle is where all districts within Te Whatu Ora organise and undertake their recruitment for the following training year for the resident medical officers for all established vacancies. So the annual recruitment cycle for 2024 has just opened on the Friday the 12th of May. Applications are open strictly for 1 month and will be closing on Friday the 9th of June at 5 p.m. Basically, what happens from there is that each district will go through a shortlisting process and will therefore then go through their own ranking and selections, which may include interviews. And then on National Offer Day, all the offers are made for all the established vacancies for 2024. Now, for registrars and designated SHO positions, Offer Day will be Monday the 21st of August, noting that in New Zealand, designated SHO positions are those such as ONG, Anaesthesia SHO, and CV ICU SHO. House officers positions, which are PGY2 pre-vocational positions, offers will go out on Monday the 4th of September. All successful applicants have 1 week to confirm and accept or decline their offers, and the training year starts on Monday the 15th of January 2024 for the first rotation for house officers, and Monday the 29th of January for registrar positions for 2024 training year. You wouldn't mind?
So what I just want to quickly say here is this cycle really doesn't reflect, more or less doesn't really pertain to you, because you're looking for a PGY1 job. So your cycle is open throughout the year, but you get the most, you become more, it becomes more apparent from October, because that's when the PGY ones here, they are indigenes, more or less those that are schooled here. Their interns are meant to accept the offers before September. So post-September, the on-field offers become available and they begin to respond to international graduates, NZRS candidates, PLAB candidates, AMC candidates. So it becomes quite apparent from October all through to May or June of the next year. So usually before they start their own recruitment cycle, all the in-between times you can always apply, because they're always looking for doctors to fill in those posts, especially those that have been declined or from the indigents or the interns.
I'm going to the next slide. So the application process. All applicants interested in multiple locations within New Zealand need to complete all applications to all districts of interest. Each district is doing their own recruitment and shortlisting for offers during this period for all 2024 training year positions. As I mentioned before, for house officers in New Zealand, we have 3 monthly runs per training year, and for registrars, we have 2 6-month runs. During the annual recruitment cycle process, all rotation start dates are being recruited to for the 2024 training year. Each district undertakes their own shortlisting, ranking and selection processes, which may involve interviews or a ranking and selection process based on CVs and references and level of experience and training. Therefore, it is really important that you understand that all applications are specific to each role in each district advertised, and that you must complete your application according to the minimum requirements as set out in those advertisements. Please ensure you provide a complete application with all required documentation as set out in those applications to ensure that you have a complete application and are therefore able to be considered for evaluation and shortlisting. As districts will shortlist and communicate themselves accordingly whether you are successful, they will provide you with instructions as to whether it is via an interview or a non-interview process. As mentioned, on national offer days, all districts will make all of their offers for their established vacancies for 2024, and you may find that you may end up with multiple job offers if you've been successfully selected in more than one region. To remind everyone that offers are specific for the roles in the specific location that you've been offered to. So please only accept one offer for the same start date, and please do decline any offers that you're not wishing to accept, as this is a competitive process and there will be other applicants waiting for opportunities by means of districts being able to re-offer to the next ranked applicants on their list. Once all the offers and acceptances are received, and depending on your start date, the district where you have accepted will be in touch to commence and support you with the onboarding processes, which will include medical council registration submissions, as previously mentioned by the medical council team, AEWV visa tokens if required to assist with your work visa application if you're intending to go through the accredited employer work visa, pre-employment occupational health and safety and screening, New Zealand and overseas police vetting requirements under the Children's Act 2014, and any further documentation in preparation for your arrival, such as your rosters, payroll documentation collection, orientation information, etc. I will now pass you on back to Jake to introduce Ravoy.
Thank you, Mirai. Over to you, Rab.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. My name is Ravoy Henderson and I'm part of the candidate kaitiaki team here at Kiwi Health Jobs. We currently have 3 other candidate kaitiaki in our team who are responsible for acting as the first point of contact when candidates submit an expression of interest through any of our international recruitment campaigns. So Mirai's just gone over the annual recruitment process. For any RMOs who are interested in commencing work outside of that annual recruitment cycle, as in you might be wanting to start this year rather than the 2024 training year, you can submit an expression of interest via the Somewhere Different campaign page and we can pick that up and assist you. So Kiwi Health Jobs is a recruitment portal which has been used as a centralised point to receive expressions of interest from overseas candidates, and then we refer them out across the country. Kaitiaki is actually the Māori term used for the concept of guardianship, which explains a little bit about what the role of the candidate kaitiaki is in the process. So our role is to simplify the process for you by providing support and guidance and answering any queries that you might have to help you finalise your profile. Once your profile is finalised, we can then connect you with recruiters across the country in the locations that you've told us you're keen to work in, and we'll continue to follow up with both yourself and the recruiters on the progress of your expression of interest. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to start this process off, as I mentioned, you can submit your expression of interest via the campaign page by clicking on the red.
So Kiwi Health Jobs is a website you need to be familiar with. That's where you see most of the jobs. And that's just as she has said, you can email them directly, explaining your situation, attaching your CV and all whatnot, and they would reply to you and guide you through. The Kiwi Health Job website, you need a VPN to access it outside of New Zealand and some countries. So I think those from Africa, definitely you need a VPN to access the website. So if you're loading it and it's not opening, just get a free VPN and you're going to be able to access it. Send a mail to them, search PGY1 job on the job panel, and you obviously see the available jobs, usually expression of interest or an active job advert. All right.
See the details button. This takes you through to an expression of interest form to complete. So the form is not long or complicated. It's just been designed to capture some basic information about your role and your specialty and allow you to tell us what your preferences are in terms of locations and settings across the country. So are you more interested in an urban or rural setting? This information is important because it helps us connect you with the right recruiters. And the recruiters in the districts do also find it helpful to see CVs because it allows us to check experience and your fit for roles and also gauge quickly whether the registration process will be reasonably straightforward or not. So for that reason, we do recommend attaching an up-to-date CV when you submit an expression of interest to reduce the number of questions that we might need to come back to you with and make things go a little bit faster. Next. So on this slide, we have a visual showing the recruitment process. There we go, thanks, Jake. Showing the recruitment process at a high level and what happens after you submit an expression of interest. So after being referred, the candidate kaitiaki will continue to work with the recruiters out in the district hospitals and track the progress of your application, which allows us to understand where things are at in each district and continue to work best with you. So an example of this might be where someone submitted an expression of interest and just selected 2 districts. And after speaking to the recruiters at those hospitals, we find there's not currently any roles available. So that just allows us to come back to you and have a chat to explore further options in other regions. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if you have any questions about the recruitment process or any other topics, you can get in touch with us by submitting a query using the Talk to Us form on the campaign page, or you can email us directly at info@kiwihealthjobs.com. Thank you.
So somewheredifferent.nz is a website you could easily go to, and this whole recruitment team, there's a bit of a help team that's available there to help you. You could send emails directly to info@kiwihealthjobs, and they're going to pick up your case and help you get a job. That's straightforward.
This for New Zealand's accredited employer work visa. Over to you, Paul and Hiro.
Hello everyone, my name is Hiro Kuroki. I'm a manager of sectors and skills team at Immigration New Zealand. I'm with my colleague Paul, and we are going to talk about some visa options for you, RMO. Thank you. Next slide, please.
So the visa process is another quite dicey one, so really pay keen attention to this section. I had a bit of a back and forth draws. So the key point here is once you get a job, immediately you get a job offer, while you're processing your registration, tell your team, your recruitment team, to generate your token. In my own case, I didn't know I needed a token, and I waited for almost a month, finished my registration process, and then I had to wait for another 1 month for my token, which delayed my resumption. But if you do it simultaneously, once you get a job, tell them to get you a job token, and so that you'll be able to, it will be available for you once you have your registration, because you need your registration to apply for visa. So listen keenly, please.
Okay, so there are some other options, but these two options are the most common ones for doctors. So let's look at the option 1. First option is to apply for an accredited employer work visa with te whātaro. And this visa can be granted up to 3 years. And if you wish to stay in New Zealand permanently, you can apply for a resident visa. So the benefit of this option is cheaper compared to this option 2, and also faster process. The downside is you have to, if you have a partner or children, they have to make a separate visa application. So the second option is to apply for a straight to residence visa. You can apply from where you live now, and you can include the entire family in one application. You and your family can enter New Zealand as a resident, which is a huge benefit. Particularly if you have young children, the downside of this option is it may take longer compared to option 1 for us to assess because of the higher requirements due to the residence plus visa. Next slide, please. Okay, let's look at the option 1, accredited employer work visa. Next slide, please. So accredited employer work visa has 3-step system. So first step is employer accreditation, and second step is job check. And the third step is accredited employer work visa. And by the time you apply for a work visa, the employer should have completed the first and second steps. So you are only involved in the first in step 3. And once the employer, te whātaro, has completed the job check, they will receive a unique token from us, and they will send the unique token to you, and you can apply for a work visa using this token. All right, next slide, please. So the final step is the accredited employer work visa, which you will be involved in. And you will need to provide us with a valid employment agreement that needs to be signed by both parties. And you will need to demonstrate that you are suitably qualified to do the job. I will talk about this in the next slide. The other requirements are the health, character, and bona fide. So with the health, once you have submitted your accredited employer work visa, we will contact you and ask you to visit one of the immigration approved panel physicians. And most of you should have an approved panel physician in your country, and they will send the report to us directly. For the character, we will request a police certificate from your home countries, and if you have lived in other countries, you may need to provide a police certificate from these countries as well. And finally, we will check whether you have the genuine intention to come to New Zealand to work as a RMO. Okay, thank you. Next one, please. So this is what I was talking about in the previous slide. You need to demonstrate that you are suitably qualified to do the job. These documents are the typical documents immigration normally request. However, for you as a doctor, the most important document is the occupational registration or eligibility letter issued by medical council. Right, next one, please. Okay, I will talk about residence pathway, which is the option 2 in the first slide. Next one, please. So these are the minimum requirements for all applicants who wants to apply for a straight to residence visa. So you must be 55 years old or younger, and you have to have a job offer from an accredited employer. Te whātaro is an accredited employer. And you have to meet health and character requirement. This is the same as temporary work visa. However, for the residence visa, we have higher criteria. Also, you must meet English language requirement. That's not an issue usually if you are from one of the English spoken countries. Next one, please. So this is a visa fees. Application for an accredited employer work visa, $750. If you have a family of 3, so you have a partner and 1 child, you will need to pay $750 for yourself, accredited employer work visa, and also $700 for your partner's work visa. If you look at the further down, you see the price, and you will need to pay either student visa or visitor visa for your child. If you look at in the middle, you will see the fees for straight to residence visa. As I said before, residence visa is more expensive than the temporary work visa. It costs around $5,000, nearly $5,000.
So there have been a change in this visa fees. Now for accredited employer work visa, which was $750 before, is now $1,540. For the straight to residency visa, is now 6,450 from 4,290, just so you know.
Visa is you can include all your family in one application, so your partner do not have to apply for work visa, or your children don't have to apply for student visa or visitor visa. So $4,890 for your entire family. Right, next one, please. Okay, so this is the estimated processing timeframes. Accredited employer work visa takes around 1 month, so 20 working days. And if your partner applies for a work visa, it is taking 25 to 35 days at the moment. My advice is that you and your partner apply for a visa at the same time, so that we can assess your partner's visa as soon as we finalize your application. In straight residence, this is taking around 4 months at the moment. So as I said, option 1, accredited employer work visa, is a quick option. So if you want to come to New Zealand to start working next month, then you may want to consider option one first. But if you have still time before you start working here, you can apply for a straight residence visa. This is the estimated processing timeframes. If you don't provide all the information when you apply for a visa, it may take longer than this time frame. All right, thank you. Next one, please.
So basically, for these work visas, I would advise you just go with the AEW visa, accredited employer work visa, because eventually when you come here, you're already relaxed. The difference is not so much. Yeah, I know now it's about 1,005, but the residency visa, it takes time. They said 4 months. It usually takes even longer than that. It takes time, and most of the time the job might wait for you, but who knows if they could wait that long, especially if it's a PGY1 job. So you need to choose a visa option that gets you here as quick as possible. Obviously, if you're planning on stepping out, this just working for a 12 months here or so, then you just better get the AEW visa. The residency visa, straight to residency, is not permanent resident. You just have a residency visa, so you need to stay on residency visa for 2 years before you get permanent resident, become a permanent resident. So it's a bit different. So you don't have all the benefits of a citizen being on residency visa, just so you know.
All right, so there was a lot of information. So if you missed something, or if you want to gather more information, please visit our website, immigration.govt.nz. And this is the last slide from immigration from us, and I hope we will see your application soon. Thank you.
So this whole process, it still goes on. I'm just going to share some information now on some website where you could find jobs. So alongside the Kiwi Health jobs, you could also search for jobs in Indeed. Just go to Indeed, New Zealand, and search for PGY1 jobs. So you see these jobs are available currently, this day today. You could apply for these jobs. Some other place to get a job would be to go to the Tefa Tuora website. I'm going to include this in the description. So this gives you more or less the available jobs. There's the available jobs in Tefa Tuora, the whole of New Zealand. So you could also see here, you could go regionally to in each of the districts, the district head boards, and you search for these PGY1 jobs, or in this website you could just search the RMO for RMO jobs, and obviously, give me a minute, just scroll up. Yeah, open vacancies, these are for RMOs, and this place is another point of call. This just streamlines the job. So you see expression of interest, you still have PGY1 job. Mind you, PGY2 isn't for you. PGY1 is for you. So don't stress yourself applying for PGY1 2 jobs. You won't get it. It's not for you. One other thing to do is send direct emails to the RMO units, the recruitment team. So these emails are specific to the district head boards. So I'm going to attach this website as well to the comment section of this video, so you'll be able to send a direct email to these recruitment teams expressing your interest. So you attach your CV, you could call them even if you want to, just to sell yourself, and so there's really no hard and fast way around this. It's persistence. You need to be diligent and just keep pushing. With regards to pay, I know that's really something most people want to know about, because at the end of the day, you want to be sure that the move is worth the while. You get paid more in New Zealand in comparison to UK, but you get paid more in Australia in comparison to New Zealand. So it's UK, New Zealand, Australia. In whatever category, whatever level of job you are working in, if you go work the same job in UK, you get less paid, way less paid. So an average annual salary for a PGY1 is $95,000. which will amount to about $3,000 per fortnight. That's $6,000 in a month. That will be about £3,000, which is really not what you get in the UK, obviously, as an FY2. This is your base salary when you do your extra shifts, you work on holidays. So they're kind of more or less things that give more credence to the move. Obviously, the work-life balance here is also quite respected. You work 40 hours base time dependent. Okay, so it's all it's a process, and if you put in the energy required and the attention required, I'm very sure you'll be here in no sooner time. All right, if you have any questions, any further questions aside from what we've already discussed, please comment in the comment sections, or go back to this video, rewatch it, a lot of details. I've also made some other videos in the past. You could also go watch them for more information and more details. And I'm going to be making more videos as time goes on, especially with regards to requests and queries. I'm going to be making more videos to enlighten you and keep you up to date. All right, I wish you all the best in all your pursuits, and may we all win at the end of the day. Goodbye.